Thanks for tuning in to the Disembodied Screams podcast. Those returning, thank you. Those new to this podcast, welcome. Now let's get started with probably one of my favorite Cattle Decapitation album covers. It might be my favorite. It's up there with the Harvest Floor. In fact, I think this one and Harvest Floor are almost tied for me with the way of my favorites by this band. And let's go ahead and dive into this cover and just do what we normally do, or what I normally do on these podcasts, and just talk about the cover a little bit. And again, scale is 1, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, 6, Freddy's Nightmare. So this cover will fall somewhere between that 1 and 6. And I'm currently living in an apartment right now while we renovate our house. In case you hear noise outside, somebody's got a 4-cylinder with a big glass pack on the back of it, making a lot of noise out there. So if you hear that, that's what it is. All right, let's go ahead and dive into this album cover, which you'll see it on the screen. I gave a 6. This album is horrific through and through. It's the kind of horror like Cannibal Corpse has that I'm not sure I want to put on YouTube. I don't think Spotify will be an issue, but I'm worried about YouTube. But I do see this on YouTube, so they might give this some age restriction and say nobody under 18 can look at this one because of that album cover. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into this album cover. First off, you got a cow in an apocalyptic type background. There's reds, there's blacks, there's yellows. And the cow itself has kind of it looks like a cow, but the colors of the cow kind of give me a little bit of a nightmarish vibes. It's not exactly the right color for a cow. It's kind of looking back at the screen. You've got it just defecating, just a waterfall of human remains. You've got faces, you've got hands, you've got all kinds of crap inside this crap. I think this even skull to the far right, just above the word Humanure, almost got like an eyeball looking right at you. So this is horror through and through, folks. This is a straight up 6. All day, all night. The kind of cover that you would hide from your parents. The kind of cover you might hide from most people, because you can pull your kids away if the cover's around. It's a very horrific cover. And on Wikipedia, there was something about the artwork, so I went in and pulled that too. It says the album cover, which has been compared to the cover for Pink Floyd's album Atom Heart Mother, was drawn by artist Wes Ben Scotter. The cover depicting a cow defecating flesh and blood was deemed grotesque by most retailers, that's metal, who refused to carry it unless it were altered. Because of this, a reissue of Humanure was released by Metal Blade, with the cow omitted, leaving just the barren wasteland visible. I might have to go seek that cover out sometime. If I can find it, I'll put it on the screen here. And if I do find it and it's on the screen here at this spot, then you'll see it on Spotify or YouTube. All right. It says, in an interview with Revolver, Ben Scotter claimed that the art's similarity to Pink Floyd's album was not intentional. And he did not even look at the artwork for Atom Heart Mother until the Humanure piece was already finished. Joe DeVita of Loudwire referred to it as one of the scariest heavy metal album covers of all time, validating my rating even further with someone else saying how horrific and scary this thing is. And looking at the title, Humanure, it's extremely gross. It's extremely foul. It definitely gives you gives you a little bit of an ick factor. And initially I had the title at 6, but after doing a few other of my reviews, I was like, compared to some of these other reviews, like, spoiler alert, Slayer's Hell Awaits and Black Dahlia Murders Nocturnal, I didn't think the title deserved the number I gave it. So I backed it down to a 4, because it's not exactly leaning towards Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but it's not exactly into Freddy's Nightmare territories, but it is leaning heavily towards that, because the idea of human beings being turned into manure, that's very, very horrific. So I give the title a 4. And with the cover and title rated, let's move on to album information from Wikipedia. It says Humanure is the second studio album by American death grind band Cattle Decapitation, released on July 13, 2004 through Metal Blade Records, and has been noted for its iconic cover art depicting a cow defecating what appears to be human body parts in a wasteland environment. The image, of course, is Pink Floyd's Atom Heart Mother, which I just mentioned a minute ago. It said Humanure generated some minor controversy around the time of its release for its obscene imagery. Oh no, the imagery is obscene, from a band called Cattle Decapitation. If you're looking at their album and you're going, it's obscene, I'm like, well, look at their name of the band. Maybe you shouldn't look at it if you think that's obscene. The name alone can be obscene to most people. All right, he goes on to say the album's opening track, Scatology Domain, great name, the title of which is a Pink Floyd reference, in this case to the song Astronomy Domain, or Domain, I cannot pronounce that word, is a cover of the opening of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. Gabe Serbian, Justin Pearson, and Rob Bray of The Locust made guest appearances on the album, along with former member Scott Miller, and a music video was produced for Reduced to Paste, another great title, would make a great slasher movie. And I love the fact that Cattle Decapitation, I was doing Death Atlas recently, and they got keyboards. Here they're talking about Beethoven. You just don't get a lot of that from death metal bands, and that's the reason why I just love Cattle Decapitation, because they're so original, so unique, so different. Personnel for Cattle Decapitation goes like this. Travis Ryan, one of the greatest vocalists of all time. And he plays an Ebo on Scatology Domain, or Domain, I cannot pronounce that word. So that's kind of cool to learn. So I've learned he plays keyboards on an album, Death Atlas. He plays Ebo on this album. So the dude's not only got the great vocal range, he's also got a lot of talent beyond that as well. Josh Elmore is on guitars, Troy Oftedal is on bass, and Michael Laughlin is on drums. Singles, 0. I cannot find one single for this one. So if you know if there was a single, let me know in the comments below. All right, track listing time. Scatology Domain, I cannot pronounce that word. Humanure, Reduced to Paste. I love this one. Bukkake Tsunami. Okay, was that a porn? That sounds like a porn. Cloacula, the Anthropophagic Copromantic. Boy's throwing out some big words in this one. Chummified. That would be a great shark movie. Applied Human Defragmentation. That could be kind of a cool little, where a human gets sucked into a computer and they start being defragmented inside the computer and they got to get their way out of it. If you steal that idea, give me a little credit for it. The Earthling, Polyps, Lips and Assholes, and Men Before Swine outro, which in my mind is the only knock against this album, is that outro, Men Before Swine. That's the one which is like a running like conveyor belt or something, people talking in the background, if I'm not mistaken. Not a big fan of that part. All right, here's where I get to the rating. I've looked at the songs, I've talked about the songs a little bit, and looking through all these songs, I gave them a 5. Songs are extremely graphic, grotesque, and truly horrific through and through. Do yourself a favor, or don't do yourself a favor, one of the two. Take the time and read through the lyrics. You'll find they all make great, gory horror movies, and that's why I gave it a 5. And I might have gone with a 5.5 or a 6, but I think I gave it a 5 more because number 11 just... There's nothing to number 11. So you got to really get a 6, and there are some albums that are probably going to get some 6s coming up pretty soon. You've got to be horror. Every song has got to be lockstep in horror, and not all these are lockstep in horror. So 5 for that. And when I add up all the numbers of the cover, the title, and the songs, put them in a pot, mix it around, watch that pus, just gelatinous pus and goo, just bubble and froth and everything. I reach my hand in and pull out this mucusy number, and the number is 5. That's right, this album is a number 5, and it currently lands in the horrific top 5 at number... I'm having a little trouble figuring out the numbers for these, because if you look on the screen, you can see what I've got in my ratings, because Black Sabbath is at 5.4. Dying Fetus, Make Them Beg for Death is 5.4. So is that 1 and 2? Is that a tie? I'm not sure. So technically that's 1 and 2, or that's 1, I'm not sure. King Diamond Abigail 5.2 is firmly in second or third, depending on how you look at it. Cattle Decapitation Humanure is at 5. And now King Diamond's Abigail 2 is at 5, which is also tied with this one. So is that 1, 2, 3, 4? It's at 4 and 5. Is that 4? I'm not sure. And Cannibal Corpse Chaos Horrific is at 4.9. So technically that's the horrific top 5. But if you go with 1, 2 ties, it's a horrific top 4. So I'm not really sure how to look at that just yet. And I don't remember what was before Cannibal Corpse Chaos Horrific at 4.9. So I can't really add that to this because I've just forgotten. I haven't kept up with it. So anyways, on the screen is kind of a current running top 5. And eventually it'll write itself out. Because once I get to the Black Dahlia Murders and Hell Awaits by Slayer, it does write itself out. And I think I kind of figured it out by then. So anyways, that is a horrific top 5. Cattle Decapitation Humanure is landing solidly in there. And it'll probably be in there for a little bit with the ones I've got coming up soon. And if you're looking for more Cattle Decapitation, I dropped a ranking of their albums some time ago. Death Atlas should be out already by now. Humanure is now. The Harvest Floor is coming up next week. So be looking out for that one. And I will eventually get back to some cattle decapitation in the future if you do enjoy listening to me ramble on about them. All right, let me drop it here and close out the episode. If you like what you hear, don't forget to tap the follow button if you're on the podcast. Subscribe if you're on to YouTube. Hit that like button as much as you can if you're on YouTube. And basically what I'm trying to say is wherever you are, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, just find a way to give this podcast some love and let that algorithm that you are a part of know this dude is doing some really good stuff. All right, take care. Thanks for listening, and go listen to Humanure today, and then drop me a comment below with your favorite song from the album, and maybe your ranking. Could you rank the cover? Could you rank the title? Could you rank the songs? I would love to hear that too. What your opinion is. Where would you put this album at in those 3 things? And keep in mind the scale, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood to Freddy's Nightmares. All right, be good, and have a good one.